Welcome all to my first, I guess, lone-hosted IrisBG webinar. I assisted Mr. Osgaard last time with some of the procedures that we use here at Dawes. And first, let me introduce myself. My name is Greg Payton. I'm the Plant Records and GIS Manager here at the Dawes Arboretum. I've been here since 1996, so a couple of years. Obviously enjoy what I do, so have a great time. I'm just trying to see about resizing here. Is that too big? Yeah, there you go. Is everything on the screen here? If you can see the bottom of the application. Okay, just looking at sizing. So we bought IrisBG in 2013. So not one of the first adopters, but one of the early adopters in this country. There were probably about maybe 8 or 10 at that point in the country, in the U.S. when we got it. It was still more popular in Europe and Norway, of course, where it started. But I met Havard at the APGA meeting in Phoenix, Arizona that year in June, and got the trial version and downloaded it. And I had used a records program that I had built myself from scratch using Visual Fox Pro. It started off in 1996 as a DOS flat file thing with tables for accessions and plants, where they had like all the scientific names duplicated in each table, and oftentimes they didn't match. So when you looked at the same accession. So it was a mess. So I started from almost nothing and built it up into a fairly robust program of my own design. Just to give you some idea here, it's called Arbor Base Connect, and I'm going to start it and put it over here real quick. Let me see.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so this was my, if you can see this screen now, it's kind of grayed out on mine, but is that legible?
Yep.
Okay.
No, I can't. I can't see your screen, unfortunately, for some reason.
Oh, okay. Well, let me see if I do that. Is that shared window is not available? Wait, I'm trying to figure out what's happening here. Okay. Interesting. Let me see here. I'm still trying to get the hang of this application here too. So.
Absolutely.
You can't see the big ABC here?
No.
Interesting.
Sorry, Greg.
Yeah.
Oh. Maybe I need.
Now I saw the bubbles.
Yeah, you saw bubbles and
bubbles and people laughing.
Yeah.
I can see the accession screen.
Yeah, we have the accession screen in front of us.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but wanted to see how I could get this to show. Are you seeing it now, ABC?
No.
Right there? Okay, you still have the same screen. Well, I
Absolutely.
guess I won't show you that then. That's neat. That's it was just an application that did a lot of what IrisBG does, but no, a little bit too much. But not nearly as useful as what IrisBG is. So when we acquired it, I quickly transferred the data over myself, and was one of the successful folks to do that. But I had an extensive programming background from all the design work I did building that application, so I had sort of a head start there. But anyway, one of the things I wanted to show you, if you've never seen it before, like some of the interns there, there's a lot to see and understand. I mean, just some basic things. You can search from any of these quick search boxes up here at the top, accession number, taxon name. Not really so much location and family, but they sort of show you once you search. So if you search for acers, it'll show you all the acers. And then you can sort by whatever fields you wish by clicking on the row headings. And then if you double click on one of them, it goes into the record for that. And this indicates, the red here indicates that this plant has been removed. So the little red dot means, red is dead, blue is a process, green is good. So and then once you have, if you look down here at the bottom, I'm on record 12 of 2,633 acres. So, quite a few. And so that means I have a table. If I go back to search results, I have a table that I've pulled down of all those acres. So then I can just navigate through them by going next and previous. And then if I clear the screen, any of these boxes that you see here with the little symbols, like the little circle after accession year, the little tilde after origin, means that you can type in partial searches. So if I type in Dawes, it'll show me everything with that starts off Dawes in here. And you can even wildcard it, so anything with Dawes somewhere in the name. So some people probably don't use that as much. Let me see if I can find one. Okay, no, it still said Dawes. But okay, here, I just saw one there. See, Dawes was all the way down here. So that's the.
I've never used that, Greg. So
So wildcard search in any of these tilde fields, like even comments, if I use the wildcard symbol, which in IrisBG is the percent sign. So if I'm just guessing maple, and then search. So, yeah. So if that's new to somebody, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get those pictures. Yeah, a little picture of a tree and a little picture of thing.
Oh, well, that's actually, you mean like these?
Is that in there? I don't know. That didn't show up on ours.
That's something that I customize myself. Let me see if I can show you where I did that. Let me see. Collections.
I was coveting over those little symbols, Greg. I thought they were really nice.
Yeah, that's. I have to remember where I got that from. You put me on the spot here. I think it's under collections.
We try to put it with everything that's alive, if it's a tree.
Yeah. Well, we have three main collections. We have the living plant collection. We have a bonsai collection, and then I'm trying to think
plants for sale. Right.
And then we have, dried plant specimens, herbarium specimens. So those symbols sort of jump you to what it is you're looking at right there on the screen. Of course, I just used the Dawes logo since it's hard to see a dried plant specimen, but that kind of looks like maybe it's a dried leaf. I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, so and then virtually all of these drop downs are customizable. I set up all these status items here myself based on different categories. You can see all things that are in the nursery start with NUR, so they're all they all use the if I click over here you'll see a change, but they use the propagation settings where you can have how the propagule was started, whether it was a graft of some kind, and if it came in as scions, how it was grafted or how it was rooted in different chemical rooting hormones, the environments it was kept under, what medium it was under, so you can use and what pot sizes they might be in, and even duration. So you say it's maybe the treatment was in acid bath, and like in hydrogen or soak in some sort of acid, you could say for 3 hours, and then when you change it the next time, that history item would be saved with how it was propagated. So you have history that goes with each item. Each time you change either the date, the status, or where it's located, it creates one of these history rows, so that that information that you had on that screen is then saved with that plant. So you can always go back and see, okay, well, these rooted really well. What did I do? And you can go back and see if I can I know I didn't change it. I didn't want to save it. And okay, this one is just a voucher. Have anything good there? Let me see. Let's see. You know, some of these were done. Well, of course, 1937 was done well before we got IrisBG, but but let me see. Let me go to them. Oh, and one more thing before I get into that, you can also do partial searches. So PAL was in Acer Ophalis. PAL is right there, so it uses searches within. So, and you can even skip out the species and say, if you know it's Acer saccharum, there's, I was thinking of this one, the commemoration. It's hard for me to talk. But yeah, you can use partial searches like that because it knows if you put even A, D, if you put a single quote, it's part of the cultivar name. So
Right.
it's going to find a lot here. So, but yeah, if you look at some of these, like Dell's Dwarf here, this one was propagated here, and we do a little weird thing here with some of these qualifiers. When we first propagate something, especially from seeds, this one wasn't, but I'll often, if it's seeds, I will generally put the qualifier to 99 to keep it out of the way. Then if we have collection plants, I can number them 1 through whatever. But we just have some customized things. But these were cleft grafted, kept on the open bench, 5 scions, and now they're in a 3-inch pot, grafted onto Acer palmatum. And what I'll often do too is under parentage, when I know what the accession number was of the understock, I'll put the understock accession on here, set it to irrelevant because it's not propagated from that. But then that shows what rootstock that plant is on. But our propagator doesn't always add that information for me to add. So,
Brian, can I interrupt for a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Go back to the items tab.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we similarly have, you know, multiple of the same specimen, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been taking photographs of them. So if I wanted to add an image to, let's say, the second item in the list, do I just click on that row?
No, when you go to images, and let me see if I can find. This isn't a image that is of a plant, but this is just something that was on my desktop. But once you add an image, what you can do is you go down here to item and you pick which item on the list that picture refers to.
Belongs to. Got it. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So, oops. Delete that. But yeah, you can just drag and drop photos right in. So here's a grounds map, and here's a posts map. So you can add those in. I can set this as, of course they're not. That's the image of 0.1, and this was an image of 0.98, and you can see 0.1, 0.98. So there you go.
Thank you.
And then you can get rid of them. Yep. And I'll just undo because I didn't want to save anything there. Now back to my subject, and this is great. If you come up with questions along the way, just pop in because I can always go down some kind of a rabbit hole to follow threads. So, but I was out today mapping some plants to help show you how we operate in that regard. And we use a Trimble G07X. And again, this is going to be one of those. It's not even letting me show images here, is it?
No, it's not.
Let me try something here. There. Now you should see the image, right?
It's just
We just did for a minute, Greg.
Okay.
We saw your image for a minute, and then it disappeared.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's interesting.
Oh, here we go.
Nothing. Okay, now
Yep, you've got,
you see
got it on now.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see up here at the top, Trimble Geo7X. I'm just trying to figure out how this sharing operates here.
Cool.
So I was out mapping some plants, and this is when I had it set up. This is what's called a H-star unit, which gets satellites from all over the world. So you can see I have a total of 18 satellites right now, and mostly the U.S. GPS satellites, and then these are probably the European Space Agency's satellites. But I can pick up Russian and Chinese satellites when they're actually available. So you get quite a few. And then we have, and this is just the GPS controller screen on the unit that I set up to set the GNSS system up. And you can see right here where it says 11 centimeters. That's the accuracy that I was running at the time. There's a couple ways you can improve accuracy without any kind of auto correction system, and this might be above somebody, but if not, just nod and smile like you know what I'm talking about. But without any auto correction, you can be within several meters of accuracy. There is a system on here where you just connect to these satellites here that have their own correction signal, and that's called SBAS. And that gets me down to usually half a meter. I'll get between 48 and 56 centimeters accuracy. But I signed up with the state of Ohio, and I'm sure other states do as well, but the Department of Transportation has its own autocorrection signal. You have to sign up for free on with their representatives, but it uses what's called a and I'm going to forget the name of it now. But it's a signal you connect to when you have Wi-Fi on the unit, or if this had mobile data, but this was connected to Wi-Fi right here at the time. So it auto-corrects via a ground station in real time. So that takes me down from half a meter down to 11 centimeters, which is usually around 4 or 5 inches. So that's pretty good accuracy, I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then similarly, let me see.
Well, this kind of Trimble we have at Monticello too.
Is it? Okay, good, yeah. Okay, here's another image. I'm just getting smoother at this. This is with the, so you can see this one now?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's the same unit, but this is with IrisBG Mobile running, as you can see up there. So this downloads basically all of your plant records, and you take them out into the field with you. So it's not a live connection. I don't have to have Wi-Fi. I don't have to have any mobile data. It's a copy of all my records. But I wanted to map these plants that were next to this road, and there's never been any plants out here before. And I just put the pole next to this plant, and collected it down to its 4-inch accuracy, and I could see that this plant was in the same grid cell, and it's just the mapping method we use. But then you can zoom in and out. You can view, and this button right here shows you the surrounding plants, so that's what turned that plant on to see what else was in there. And I can actually edit the plant in the field. If I click the little edit button here, I can take my little marker and drag it around. It shows like a red X where it would put it. So if I'm zoomed in nice and tight, and I have a bed right here, and there's 3 plants in a triangle, and I mapped one more plant to go in the center of all those, and it popped it way out here for some reason, I can drag it and drop it right in with those other plants. So it's like instant field checking. You can see where the plant's going to be mapped when you're out in the field, rather than having to download it and look at it on the map and say, oops, that's wrong, and have to go back out and fix it. So that saves a lot of time. So I'll show you what I did here. Go back to here. Okay, back to the records here, right? What I did was after you go out in the field, you go to Inbox, or there's a separate application called IrisBG mobile sync that does the same thing, but this has the synchronization built in now since a couple versions ago. And you synchronize by pulling the data from your GPS unit that I showed you, and it downloads everything. And if I search for, these are all the, this is a job that's ready to be imported. These are all ones that were accepted. So if I just want to go to ones that are ready and, oops, clear. This is the one that I collected today. And it was a quick, like a 22 plants, I think, that I downloaded. A lot of them were right next to my office and on the road leading to my office, so it was an easy job this morning. Of course, it's raining right now, which is great. So,
Greg,
I gotta,
did these plants already have labels on them? Just curious when you went up to collect the names.
Yeah, when all of our plants, while they're in the nursery, receive at least an accession tag and usually some kind of a plastic printed pot tag. The accession tag is an embossed aluminum tag. We have a metal tag embosser that stamps out the accession number and source and information like that. I'm not sure if I have any photos of that. I don't think I do. I should have got some of those. But they all have the accession number on them. So when I'm out in the field, I see a new plant. All of the newly planted plants have a yellow ribbon put on them, so that I know they're unmapped. That gets put on in the nursery and stays on them when they're planted. And then I typically map plants the following year after they've been planted. We plant in the spring and the fall for our trees, and I'll map the 2016 plants this year and the 2017 plantings next year. But I don't let that stop me. If I'm standing right next to a 2017 planted plant, I'm going to go ahead and map it, because rather than having to go back. So, but I'm not actively searching for newly planted plants because they might not take hold, they might die before, and I've just wasted that time. But if I'm standing next to it, it's not that much time. It only takes me a total of maybe 30 to 45 seconds to map a plant once I have everything up and running. So it's pretty easy. But when you click on one of these, now these were two older plants from 2000, as you can see, and I just updated their GPS coordinates. You can see this one is only less than 1 meter off, and this was within the same meter, but it just slightly adjusted its location on the grounds. And if I click accept, that information is then accepted, and there's no more yellow. That means everything matches with what was taken out in the field. The same with this one, accept. And then if you want to go into that record, now these are both the same accession, so if I click on one of these, you'll see both 1 and 2 on the screen. I just clicked the, let me do that again in case you missed it. Hold on. Excuse me, I've had a lung issue going on, so I apologize for the coughing. But this little ellipsis right here, where it says view current, shows you the record that you're highlighted on. And there's a total of 2 living plants, these 2 that I just updated, and then we had 2 more that had died at some point. This one was removed in 2005, and this one was taken out before it was planted in 2000. So if you go back, it was planted 5/4, and it died that fall. So you see the history there, just looking right at the plant. But then if I click on this one that I just remapped and click on the little ellipsis for where it's planted, this is my office. I'm sitting right here. So I drove out to this little field over here, and each of our plants is mapped into one of these grid cells. These are like our 100-foot by 100-foot squares. Back in the day, we had pins buried underground. Not all of them have pins anymore, but we used to map by dragging out tapes and then measuring the plants up from these corners. And the satellites make it much easier. But
Absolutely.
But the 2 plants that I just updated were this harvest gold and this harvest gold that were selected on right here. So this was 0.2. So if I click on 0.2, you'll see it highlights the other one. And then I was looking at the rest of these plants that I'd mapped to make sure that it looked like there was an angle between this plant and that this was in line with this plant when I was facing north. So I knew that they were slightly off, even sub-meter levels of accuracy. It just didn't look straight. So I just remapped those. And we'll close that. And this alcova, the same way. If we look at the current location of it, before I make my changes, it's actually located right here behind this shed, off to this angle. I was looking, it's not in line with the shed, it's back behind the shed. And if you look at these two plants, it was off to this side of this row, so it was certainly over here. So I just went in and changed its coordinates, and here you see that's about 2 meters by 2 meter change, except go back, and then you can look to see where it is now. And it has moved. It's behind the shed, and it's off from a line from these two.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, so just that little field checking and correction while I'm there. Now this is a great cultivar name, isn't it? Big Mama. I'm not sure if it's a large growing specimen or what, but this was one that was just planted in a 2017 by Richard Larson, one of our staff, and it was in good shape when it was planted. And we guesstimated its coordinates at planting time based on where he said it was, so far off a road, so far past this plant. Not too far off, actually. But then I went out today, 7/6, mapped, and it's in fair condition. This is my initials. It still has its accession tag and its pot tag. And this was its actual coordinates. So if I accept that, you'll see I now have history saying planted and now mapped. But what I can do now that it's mapped, and I don't have this option in the software, is I have to go through and tell that it's not restricted. Before it's mapped, if you see down here where it says publish without coordinates, I tell people that it's on the grounds when it gets published to the website, the Arboretum Explorer, Garden Explorer, but I don't necessarily show them where it's at, because typically it's a guess of its location, and rather than them say that plant is nowhere near where they said it was, I just sort of hide it until it's actually mapped. But this one does have some more history. You can see back in 2016, it was in a 7-gallon root maker, and then it was moved into a tree row. And this one is probably superfluous. Once it was scheduled for planting, all this information was the same, so I'm just going to get rid of that history row. But then it was planned to be planted, so we had that set, and then it was actually planted on this date, and now it's mapped. So everything's finished except for making it a permanent label, which we would do next. So, are we following along so far?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then nearby, some of these other plants that this is interesting. This was a plant. This one just was a little bit moved over. It was this one of these 3 of this accession, but this one was dead. The plant is stone cold dead. So I could mark it as dead and then pull the plant out of the ground, put it in the back of my cart, and throw it away. But we have a process. We have a process where we have grounds crew that go out and actually take out plants that are dead. So let me see if I can show you how we do that. Yeah, so I'm just going to accept that, and then it was 0.11. So when I scroll down here to 0.11, it says on removals. I'm going to take the accession number, and then I'm going to go into tasks and search for a task, and we have different removal lists. If it's done by hand, we call it axe was an old word they used to use, like mattocks and tools like that to chop roots out of plants that they could take out by hand rather than having to cut them and grind the stump out. So this one is a hand removal. I guess you could just say hand removal. But now I'm going to paste that accession number plus qualifier in and add it to that list. And now it is actually on a list of plants that can be removed. So if I go back, although it says remove now, it's not officially removed. It says it's still on removals. I'm not sure why it changed that status. But now if you look here, it shows point 11 is on the event called axe removals, and it's allowed to be taken out. Okay. So here was a couple of chinensis that I changed their locations. We'll add that and that. And here, and are we following along? Is it getting boring?
So Greg, what you would do then is take your tasks and you would actually create a report, and then the report would be given as part of the maintenance schedule. Correct. Yeah. To your grounds crew.
Yeah, and what I've done as of late is we've moved from the paper printed reports, trying to be more eco-friendly. I now publish that report on a shared folder on the cloud that's just within the organization. All the staff members that have access to that can open it up and then type in the date that it was taken out and what their name was and that kind of thing. And then I can just open up that cloud report and update all the changes that were made, so I'm not wasting paper and having to reprint it every time.
Right, exactly. So you end up having your staff have directions for, that helps plan out their work that they need to carry out.
Yeah, they can look to see, okay, we're going to be working in this particular garden area, and there's some plants that need to be taken out there, and they can do those while they're there, or they can just say, we're going to do plant removals this day, and then go around with and they can print out the list if they're somebody that doesn't like working with a tablet or something like that, and then come back in and then type the data in later. It's not necessarily green if they're printing out the list, but it's hard to get people to follow along with your directions, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's just a great way to organize people. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. That's fine. I like to explain that, and you can do that with a variety of these tasks. Say, for example, somebody wanted to see a map of where all these plants were on the grounds. I'm not sure everybody noticed this little icon right up here at the top, but that basically shows the items of this task list on the map. So I click that, and these are all the plants that need to be taken out.
Right.
On that list. Yeah, and then you can print the map. You can change label mode. Well, why isn't it doing? It's interesting. It usually does. If you go to maps, there's a couple ways to do that. You can go to maps, items map, and then load that event. So I want to see that same axe list view. And hold on. There. Okay. And then you can choose. Why is it not labeling anything today? Might be something with this screen sharing. It's not letting the labels pop up or something. But it normally works fine. I'll move this back over here. Back here for a second. Interesting. Well, you get the idea. You can view those lists or those task lists on a map and then work according to that. So what I did this morning was I had a mapping list of all the plants that needed mapped, and I just printed this particular list out and zoomed into this particular portion, and I mapped all those ash and things were over here, but these four were the four that I needed mapped from 2016. But then I can go over here and then drive around and find the plants that I need to map as I'm out in the field. Any questions with any of that so far before I change subjects?
No, I think it's really straightforward.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that I can really stress is when you go into the definitions and into code lists, all of these drop downs that you see in most of the fields, you can edit these to your heart's content. You can set up your hardiness zones that cover what plants you might be growing. We don't grow zone 9 plants, but we do have bonsai material. We have maybe tropical plants that somebody might say, well, is that hardy out of doors? And then on our website, if it was on there, which it's not because we don't list the bonsai material, it would say what zone it's hardy to. Label types again, herbarium labels, bonsai material. And what's nice, if you've never used the Herbarium module, it lets you see all the sheets you have of each of these plants right on the same screen with the accessions. So you can see we have a lot of sheets, and it shows you over here which item, point 3, comes from this particular plant, which is now a stump.
Right.
Yeah. So this plant, there's point 3, there's point 3. All these sheets were taken from point 3. And now that the plant is gone, because it died, we actually named this specimen. We have it repropagated. There are new images, I just saw the word images. There are new specimens of it, but the original plant named has died and is now a stump. But the sheets will forever list a sample of that plant.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So this is what it looks like in the fall.
Oh, wow.
And the bark.
Oh,
It's a nice tree. Yeah.
that's fabulous.
Yeah.
What kind of camera are you using to take these photographs, Greg?
We use a variety of different cameras. Oftentimes down here under properties, it's not going to show you on the screen here for whatever reason. I need to. But this was a Minolta camera that we used to have. Yeah, you can use your cell phone and then just drag and drop the pictures in here. Any camera you want, and depending on how you downsize it. Right now, it's set to 3 megapixel maximum. It'll reduce the size down to so that it loads more easily on the website. But yeah, and then here, this is another subject that I wanted to cover, and that's parentage. This plant was 95-157, and you can see this is the parent plant of all these following accessions, 2004 through 2015. It's been repropagated. So if I click on one of these, it opens up 2015 555. And it's the same specimen, and it's propagated from the type specimen. It has its original source. We got it from the U.S. National Arboretum. You can see all their info, all their info here. It was wild of known origin. It was actually seeds we got from the North American China Plant Exploration Consortium. Say that 5 times fast. Wild from China, but the form was so unusual, it was nothing like anybody had seen before, so we named a wild collected specimen as a cultivar.
Okay.
So we had one specimen of this particular accession that was just grown for plant sale. It's kind of hard to see here on the screen. If I drop this down, it's not letting me show you the thing here, but plant sale is one of our uses. We grow a lot of plants just to sell. To help get the plants out on the grounds. But then if I go to 349, we actually planted quite a few of those. We still have 2 of those living in the collection. One was mapped and one was inventoried. And you can view the map to see where those plants are located on the grounds out in our Magnolia collection. And this one is in the visitor center area off of one of our trails here. In between a couple of trails. So we have 2 specimens of that plant still out of that accession. And what's nice with this, and the point that I was going to make, and if I go back into one of these, you can see and there was nothing ever produced of that. That was in 2010 before we used to keep records of things that didn't make it. But if you click on the parentage tab, you can see the mama plant. So when I accession that plant, I put in what the parent was. And something I started doing recently, let me see if I can find one of these, but an advanced search, of course, is something handy. But if I say contact is Dawes Arboretum, and the letters TDA are in the origin, how we used to label plants that were repropped from our grounds is we would use this crazy string. This accession number at this location was that originally came from the Morton Arboretum. So it's not linked to Morton Arboretum, even though the plant is a propagule from a Morton Arboretum plant. So what I've been doing recently is, and this isn't even how it's really intended, but with Iris you can do what you want. There is a field called population number that typically, if you were out wild collecting plants and you went back to, or you were at a area where there was some plant that you were collecting, and maybe there were 3 locations where you found it growing, you could name those population 1, population 2, population 3, ABC, whatever you wanted. You can give them their own numbers so that you could then specify where that population was, or quantify that population. But it also, and we've used it for that, but for a plant that's repropped from a plant on the grounds like this, what I just do is then take this accession number qualifier, copy, paste, and then I go up here, and it's from the Morton Arboretum, and then when I click save, watch this top line up here. It's going to say Morton Arboretum population number 67202.1. So right there at the top of the screen, you can tell it's a repropped plant from the Morton Arboretum, that this is the parent plant that it came from. Just kind of makes it easy to see. So if I go to the next one, the information is still there, but it's more, I don't know, it's more discombobulated, discombobulated if you want to use the vernacular here. So Kingsville Nursery. So ta-da. And that way, when you're looking at it too on the screen, you see over here, population number is one of your search criteria that comes up when you search accessions.
Right on. That's great.
Yeah, so you see that right on your screen. So now I want to see Acer palmatum versicolor. So here we can see which ones have been propagated from plants on our grounds and which ones are likely, well, that's verdant pavilion, but versicolor. So this is probably the original versicolor we got from a Kingsville nursery in 1962, and then a reprop of it and a reprop of it. So you can tell right now just by doing a search which is the parent accession and which ones were the cuttings or grafts were taken from it. Make sense?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One last thing that I wanted to mention here. It's raining very nicely here, by the way, so I'm very excited.
I wish it was raining here.
Yeah.
So
we had
jealous.
rain. Yeah, we had rain all around us last week, but only got a very little bit here. And it was funny. This is just a side note. Last week, we have a small weather station here. Last week when it was raining, I was checking the station and it said no rain. It's like 1/100th of an inch, but it rained a good half an inch. And what happens is up on the pole, robins will sit up there after they've eaten fruits and put their droppings into the rain collector, and then the seeds fill up the hole.
Yep.
And they record, and then it records that you've got rain when you've really got robin dropping.
Well, no, the water just fills up. It doesn't drain through.
Yeah.
So I got the ladder out and went up, and sure enough, there was a nice puddle of water inside the rain collector. So I took a stick and poked the robin droppings through, and then it showed we got like an 1.5 inches of rain on a dry day.
Funny.
Yeah, but I fashioned a piece of screen that I wedged in there to hopefully filter that out, so that won't happen again.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, the last thing that I wanted to mention, something we've done for years, is something called, well, on Iris it's called exchanges. We called it distributions, but in the old system that I set up. But every time we have, typically other Arboretum botanical gardens, but oftentimes nurseries, come to the Arboretum to collect material, or we send scions of a plant to the Holden Arboretum for them to graft and grow, seeds of a plant, cuttings, something like that, or even individual living plants. We have a large nursery where we grow plants, and folks, and many of you are welcome too, but we'll take people to come in and go through all the plants we grow for excess wild origin plants, excess cultivars we're growing for plant sale. And if you want to take some home and plant them in your garden, you're welcome to. We'll just give them to you as a goodwill gesture to help get the plants out there. You could start a nice arboretum just from the excess plants we have in the nursery right now. But we save all that information as to where it went and things like that. So here you can see Arnold Arboretum. We transferred to Mike Dosman on last November. Mike Ecker was going, our director of Hort was going to an NAPCC meeting, and we took orders for what plants they wanted, and we brought plants with us to give to them in the back of our pickup truck. So we had a pack of seeds of this wild collected viburnum, some potted, so three of these blue ash, and 3 different accessions, each of these 2 wild collected of the birch leaf maple. So you can go into each one of these and then see that was 0.32, although that doesn't really matter. But you can see 0.32 then was here for distribution, and it's been just it's gone because it's been sent away. But then you see the wild origin of where that plant came from, and you go to this one, and this is in a different location, Shaanxi Province, China. Mm-hmm. But you can view the map and see where in China that actually came from. Let me go to Google Hybrid.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
But if you have the coordinates in the wild origin, apparently this is like some kind of a ridge top or something here. And this little ridge kind of coming up to the bald here on the mountain, it was apparently right there.
One of our interns is from China.
Yeah, hello.
Okay, cool, yeah.
Do you know them?
I know it. It is one of our classmates' hometown. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Haven't seen it. But, yeah.
That's really cool. Look at that. Oh, there.
Yeah.
Recognize that.
Xi'an County, in Shaanxi Province.
Cool.
So yeah, if we would love to have some Chinese folks here to help narrow down some of these translations for us too. So if you get bored.
She's a real whiz on the IrisBG, so she'd be a good intern for you next year.
Yeah. But we get these locations like the counties and whatnot, and the forest parks and things like that. The elevation and the coordinates and all that information from these wild collected the NACPEC collections at North American China Plant Exploration Consortium. I've said it twice now, not 5 times, but often gives quite detailed information about where these plants are, what they're associated with, the slope, different things like that, forest floor, whatnot. But but back to this subject, one of the things that's useful for this, and we've used it a few times, say we're in accessions and somebody's looking at this plant and we say, this is actually not the cultivar versicolor. It is some other cultivar. and we change the name on the records. We go in, we pick a different name for it. We call it some other cultivar name. I won't make the change, but find where versicolor was. There it was. So we change the plant. Well, then if I see over here that this plant has been sent out to other gardens, they might want to actually know that. So if let me find one here that maybe I don't need to save that. Let me see, Shin. Okay, Acer campestri natum, 95306, and I'll just do it this way to make it 95306. So here you can look and see that plant has been sent to Ed Shin in New Jersey. Okay, so if I were to say this plant is a different cultivar and we change the name, I can click over here. Oops, I better contact Ed and tell him.
Huh.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah. Also, if you've lost a plant in your collection, you would know people who might have it, and you could get it back.
That was my very next point. Yeah, exactly. So you have some rare plant, that Acer that we named, that Dawes Emerald Tiger that looks so pretty. Say all of our plants failed, and we'd send it because we've shipped that to. I think Arnold Arboretum has it. We sent plants to Chicago Botanic Garden, Morton Arboretum, Holden Arboretum, Atlanta Botanical Garden. We've sent plants everywhere. So that would be a great way to find who might have that plant. So if I say, let me see, it's kind of harder to search by the individual plant, but I could if I go to Acer Nvidia Dawes Emerald Tiger. Okay, here I can look down through these and run through the list. Okay, Ed Shin has this one. So does Highland Creek Nursery, Brossman's Nursery, Broken Arrow Nursery. Got it a couple times. That particular one. So I can just scan through these. Morton Arboretum, Holden Arboretum has this accession. And U.S. National Arboretum has this accession. I forgot about them. And again, Brossman Nursery has it again. So it's not as many as I thought, but that tells me. So say we lost the plants, I could then contact Holden Arboretum and say that they got one potted plant of it in 2007, and ask them if they still have it, and reobtain it.
Right.
All right. Well, that took us through most of the 50 minutes. Any other questions that anybody's been hankering to ask? I've not had my chat turned on, so let me go back up here in the chat. I see there's a few questions. You get the general Q&A. What would you recommend? New accessions to Iris, but the specimen was actually planted and acquired several years ago. Okay, Rebecca, looks like you have two questions on here. I will start with that one. If you have, and I've done this before, say somebody hands you an invoice of plants they bought in 2015, and they planted in their garden, and I've not had a chance to look at them, and they've been growing there the whole time, and I want to go back and add them. If you specify when you add an accession, 2015, and then basically put your plant in, Goodyear pubescens, I just was guessing at something, and you fill everything else out. Cultivated of garden origin from the gardens, and you save this, it's going to automatically, and I can go ahead and do this because I cannot delete it, but when I save it, you see up here under the number, it's going to pick the oldest or the highest number of the 2015 accessions. So just like if you added a new accession this year, 2017, it would pick the next number. It'll pick the next number of the 2015 year as well. So I can save that, and apparently 921 is as high as it went in 2015. So this is now 922. So then if I click here and I say, let me just do this. 15 search. Scroll all the way to the bottom. See here. Oops, it's not sorted by accession number. Blink now. Where am I? Let's go down to the bottom. I have to make noises. Doink. So there you go. 921 was the last one that was officially accessioned in 2015, and 922 is the one that I just added. And say, for example, though, you knew, and if I look here, I see I found 922 plants, or I mean, records out of 922, and my number is 922. That means there's no gaps. So if I had found 930 records and it only went to a 922, I would know that there were numbers that were missing in here somewhere, and I could then find those missing numbers. Like say 859 didn't exist. It does, and I'm not going to save it as that, but I could specify 859 when I'm accessioning that, and it will force it to use that accession number. So if you've missed numbers in accession years, you can fill them back in with extra plants, and your date received and all this other information like that will then, it might not be sequential in date received, but does that really matter to you?
Okay. So Iris actually is smart enough to know that it goes and looks for the last accession number in 2015 and it plugs that in.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not smart enough to say, hey, you missed 14 out of that sequence, and then to make it the next, or to fill in gaps. That's something that you have to be smart enough to do if you wish to not miss numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
But normally, Greg, this is a process we use. We always take the next number. Mm-hmm. So whenever we accession material, whether it's a seed, whether it's a procured material, it's a cutting, anything, as has been received in that order, we automatically allow Iris to generate the numbers. So
correct.
It seems odd. Would somebody actually assign a number to something? Like
we are the same way. Yeah, we are the exact same way, and that's why you can check just about all of our. Actually, let me go ahead and delete this record because we don't need it. If you take any of our, let me see, we got, well, even back then, but if I take 2000 and, well, actually it used to, there's a slight fluke with Iris. In a couple years ago, they changed the accession number search. So if you wish to just search for a year, the easiest way is just to put it here and click search for 2009, and I'll come back and show you. But if you look down here at the bottom, 723 records. If I go down here, why am I showing? That's interesting. So I might have something going on here. I have higher numbers than I have plants, so I'm going to have to check that one out. But back to my point, though, if you want to search for it here, you have to use the same format. So we always start ours with a D just because we're strange like that. 1996. And then I can put the wildcard. So it'll find everything that starts with D 1996. So it's a tad more typing, but then if I just want to do partial searches too, so I'm going to see D 1996.056 something 0056. Okay, so yeah, you can do different sorts of searches like that. And the second part of your question, Rebecca, we now have established customized list of location codes in Iris. I'd like to have this list automatically populate in the Excel spreadsheet that I can add new accessions before the list is updated into Iris. Okay, so you're having folks enter information into spreadsheets that you then import your accessions into Iris.
Yes, in bulk.
Okay. There is a way, and if you go on to if you look at the IrisBG import template that you can download from the website, there's actually, it's set up with all these like custom fields that you can set that up, and like one of the other tabs, you just enter the codes that you wish to have choices of, and then it will then populate those drop downs. I don't know that I have time to go into it and download it, but if you have that template,
I do.
yeah, and then look at the options on the extra tabs for data. It shows you what items populate those drop downs.
Okay, I think I can do that.
Yeah, so then you can just put in your custom location codes and, into that list, and then they can pick the folks filling out the sheet can then pick those from that list, and then that should be imported directly to to match what you have it set up as in Iris. And that's something that you have to keep in mind when you're doing data imports, is that you have to have your fields match exactly how you, and this is something that I did recently. We have all these wild collected, crab apple or apples. It stopped responding here for a second. It's waiting for it to load from Kazakhstan. That I have, Malus seversii, and then a variety of it that we had as a research plot where they were trying to backcross because this is like the parent of the modern apple. It's like it's been hybridized over the years. So you start with these golf ball size apples of this species, and now you have these big, beautiful apples. But they're trying to backcross those new apples onto this wild parent to add increased hardiness, push back flowering time, add fire blight resistance, do things like that. Excuse me. And I had found a shape file that somebody had made back in the past where they had mapped them all. So if I go back in here to maps, I can show you. I have to click there. Okay. Although that was this. Let me. Oops. Let me do this again here.
Take my people down.
Yeah. Okay. The screen is being shared, but which screen? What are you seeing?
We're seeing your desktop.
Yeah, files. Yeah.
Oh, you're seeing this one. Okay. Okay. Now I've got this shared again. Okay. So now I just had to clear my filter. Okay. Are you seeing this map now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I had set it to share window and not share screen. That was the whole problem. Okay. All this entire block is those wild collected apples that I was just talking about.
Oh.
Right.
But before I had locations for them, it just said one dot. It was just one dot for they're in this area.
Oh.
But then I found the shape file that had each one of these map locations on it, and I just used it to import the data directly in. So now you see there's coordinates on each of these, and you zoom into that map, and that's that particular specimen.
Right on.
Yeah. So yeah, the import tool is very useful in that regard. But you have to have everything matching what comes in. So you have the items. So the garden code in this case, and the fact that it was mapped, and the person. This is the person that had made that shape file, and what kind of label it had to match what I had on the system when you're importing data. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you.
That's great.
You're welcome. And now it's about time for me to take my next cold pill, I can tell.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
So much. Yeah.
That's great, Greg. Thanks.
No problem.
Good session.
I was happy to help.
Thanks
That's
again.
wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Have a great day.
Thanks for coming, and tune in next month.
Okay, right on.
We will.
Thank you.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
That sounds great.
Okay. Thanks again.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.